Music channel. Thank you so much for joining us here this evening on this Sunday evening. So glad everybody is here, whether you're watching this live right now or if you catch this in the rerun. I want to let you know I do appreciate you taking the time to watch. Yeah. Hey, how's everybody doing out there? And get a little bit of reflection from my light here. I'm not happy with. That doesn't really help. That just adds another light to it. Got a lot of lights in here. I don't think any of them are any good. They're actually kind of cheap. No, well, not cheap, but they're not the best. But hey, Ben. But I guess at my age and looking the way that I do, I don't need that good of a lighting anyway. Probably the poor lighting is helping me out. Yeah, hey, good to see everybody signing in, joining in this week. Yeah, guys, funny stuff this week. A lot of interesting things came about. I don't need these right now. Yeah, a lot of interesting things came about this week. I got that DOD pedal in this week. Maybe I do need these. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thank you, Ben. I'm feeling much better. I'm starting to feel myself. And hopefully this will last, God willing. Yeah, I got that DOD pedal in, the overdrive that I was interested in, the crystal glass. And I told you that I would do a head-to-head with it against my Wampler Sovereign pedal that I've learned to really adore. It's a great overdrive, very versatile, give you a lot of different sounds, a lot of different, it's really all you need. I've said that before and I'll say it again. But again, I wanted to see what that DOD pedal, because it was also in the same category, that and also the Jeter Lightspeed, if any of you guys have ever heard of that. Jeter is a company out of Georgia in the USA. So American-made pedal company, brand. They also fell in that category, but those are a little bit harder to obtain. Those have been in production since the early 2012s. 13, 14, 15 or so. So it's been a while. Yeah, it's been at least 10 years or so. So, but the other two are a little bit easier to come by. And I did a head-to-head with that DOD and the Looking Glass and this Wampler. And I said that I would do a one-word pedal review. And I will not disappoint. The one-word pedal review is noisy. I run a pretty clean board here. One of the things that, when you're putting a pedal board together, one of the things that I've noticed that it's like a group of friends. I was thinking about this. It's like a group of friends. Some of them get along, some of them don't. And the ones that don't get along with each other, eventually they wander away, and then you get this core group of everybody who's kind of good with everybody. And that's how it is putting together a pedal board. Because you can have a great pedal that has a great kind of review point on it. Everybody says that it's great. And put it in your rig and find out that it just doesn't work. It doesn't get along with this. It doesn't get along with that. It's this, that, or the other. In the case of this pedal, it was just noisy. Now, I have a noise gate. My Zoom Multi-Stomp I use as a noise gate, slight chorus, and a little bit of reverb, reverb. That's what it's there for on the board. It takes the place of three pedals, and so I find it to be fantastic in that regard. I don't get a lot of noise out of this. It's a very, very quiet board with the Sovereign. That's one of the things that sold me on the Sovereign. Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining in. And I have had no noise problems out of this. It's just quiet. My God, it's the quietest pedal board you can imagine. I put that DOD Looking Glass in, and the first thing, it was just the noise level just hit me automatic. And first thing, and I started adjusting knobs and started doing things. I know it's nothing with anything as far as my board is concerned. Hey, greetings. And I just came to the conclusion automatically that just automatically, even before I even plugged my guitar in to strum one note, that automatically canceled the DoD Looking Glass off my board because and I did a quick swap. I said, okay, let me put the Wampler back in and see if there's something going on there. Pristine quiet. I mean, the noise floor on this pedal board is extremely low. It's one of the things that I'm really happy about. Hello, greetings, happy Sunday to everybody. And so yeah, that DoD Looking Glass. And I said, okay, well, it's not going to stay. It was doomed from that moment. It was doomed from that, from that, from that first play, literally before I even played one note. But I said, let me see about it in terms of an overdrive distortion. Let me see what it sounds like. And I also found it to be inferior to the Sovereign. It just didn't hold up. So, things don't stay here. If they don't have a purpose or that's my motto, I'm good. And part of being good is just keeping things around that you use. If you're not using it, then it needs to be out. And that money used elsewhere or for, as I've said before, something that you do need that you could use. But it led to a very interesting discovery this week, my friends. I had a revelation this week that I want to talk to you about. So, as part of something that I'm doing as a secondary business here that I've started up, I've been going around to music shops. Hey, with my newest acquisition, an Ibanez RG140 decked out with Grover locking tuners. Hey, sweet. Sweet, an Ibanez. Yeah, right on time with that talk. We're going to talk about Japanese guitars here tonight, actually. Yeah, Ibanez are sweet guitars. Congratulations on that acquisition. I've had to go around and visit a lot of shops and pass handshake and pass out my business card and do a few things. And I got to a shop about 50-minute train ride by the express from Amsterdam out in the countryside. You'd be surprised. There's a lot of small little country cities. Can't go wrong there. Yeah, I agree. Can't go wrong there. And they're gorgeous. They're beautiful places, but they're small population places. You'd be surprised about the music shops that you'll find there. Some of the music shops out there have some great finds. And now that I'm getting out and I'm expanding out of Amsterdam, in terms of let's see, get that back. I still haven't been able to figure out how to get this just to stay up, but I'm working on it. And I've been coming across some fantastic guitars and just learning a lot. And that's one of the cool aspects of what I'm doing. But 30 years old, 70s, thanks, 30 years old with Super 70s. You got a set of Super 70s. I had a set of Super 70s in a guitar that I had here that I let go. Those are fantastic pickups. I actually like them so much that my SG copy that I have here that I don't bring out very often but anymore, but I had installed in there a set of pickups made by Q Pickups in Croatia. They're a small winding company there that were modeled after the Super 70s that I had. So I love the tone of those. So I have a set of those. So yeah, great pickups. Great find there. Anyway, I was at a shop and I looked over at the wall and was looking at the stuff that they had, introducing myself, doing again, like I said, a little networking, and something caught my eye. Now, let's talk about the guitar that helped make this channel. The one that, if my video with the Epiphone 59 that I did with my luthier, um, that thing has taken a life. It's over 150,000 views, and it's just climbing. It's probably one of the biggest videos, if not the biggest video I have on this channel. And a lot of people came around and signed up, subscribed as a result of that. And so, because just flashing back to 2021, January, February, there was a great deal of interest in that. It was something revolutionary coming out of Epiphone. And I don't think that many people to this day would argue that that guitar has held up its reputation. You guys have noticed, you've seen a lot of guitars come and go here, but that one is the one that always stays. And again, like I've been saying, in terms of tone, that guitar will get you 95% there of a Gibson standard, if you want to make that comparison, if you feel the need to make that comparison. Interesting enough, the lead guitarist for Twisted Sister did an article interview this week where he talked about his love for Epiphone guitars. He goes on stage with Twisted Sister, and he uses Epiphone guitars. And he loves them, and he says, hey, if it's good enough to play in front of tens of thousands of people, it's a professional instrument. And I agree with him. It is. But that being said, as I pointed out before, there's been a lot of discussion on forums recently regarding, for some reason, there's even been videos reviewing this guitar again. Just this week, there's been a few people coming on YouTube and reviewing this guitar again. And so it's staying in the chatter out there. So it's a laster. It's obviously surpassed Epiphone and Gibson Epiphone's expectations. That's why, even though it says limited edition on the back, and those guys obviously don't have a dictionary, they've been pumping them out steadily since 2020 when mine was made. The discussion that I talked about this, I touched upon this briefly last week, where I talked about how the opinion on that guitar is, it's a great guitar. Sonically, it gets you pretty close to a Gibson, but it has no relationship at all in terms of where it's manufactured, the way it's manufactured, a lot of the small details in it, to a 59. They find it, the inspired to be very loose. And I agree with that as well. I've always thought that. I never really thought of that guitar and then thought of a 59 Gibson. It's like, I never went out with this girl and thought about I was going out with, you pick whoever you think is gorgeous. I knew what I was going out with. And it wasn't that. But it was good enough, in the metaphor there. But that guitar, really has lived up to its reputation. However, it is lacking. I haven't been a defender of that guitar. I love it. I've used it. I've recorded with it. As I've played you guys things that I've done with it, I think sound excellent. They sound great. My problems with that guitar, with the Epiphone 59, is never been sonically. It hasn't really been that. Because again, like I said, I felt it was getting me 95% there. Well, there's some guys here in the Netherlands. They own a company. It is the Stewie Mac, or the All Parts of the Netherlands. It's a company called Vox Humana. And this company, Vox Humana, here in the Netherlands. They're up by The Hague, so they're about 2 hours away from here by train. But they took a look at that 59 when it came out, and they said to themselves, hey, you know what? That's pretty cool, what Epiphone is trying to do there. But let's take it a step further. Let's instead of using we talked about mahoganies, we talked about levels of mahogany. There's, of course, in terms of mahogany, your African mahoganies and things of that nature are at the top of it. Then you start getting into some of the Eastern mahoganies and or Asian mahoganies, and the Epiphone 59 is made actually from mahogany that's sourced from the Philippines, actually. Upon deep research into it, that's where they source their wood for their mahogany from. And they said, well, a Les Paul standard, USA standard, well, they use African mahogany these days. So what if we took that concept of that 59 and we gave it an African mahogany two-piece back? We have it made in Japan, so we'll have the Japanese put it together for us with a Japanese maple top. We'll build it to the exact same thickness and dimensions of the USA and exact the single cut. We'll make it exactly to the dimensions and the headstock as well, to the same dimensions and size and shapes of USA standard. We will not use the Asian metric bridge that you find on Epiphones, but we'll use the imperial standards that you find on Gibsons. We'll use a Goto and Switchcraft and CTS in terms of putting together all of the electronics, and we'll even throw in a rosewood fretboard on that. And what would that be like? In other words, really taking that Epiphone 59 concept and just lifting it up a bit. And well, they did it. And I saw it and I bought it. And that is this guitar right here. This is the Vox Humana 59. This guitar has I could spend a lot of time going, and I guess I should at least talk about it a bit, but I could spend hours droning on and on about this guitar in terms of the comparison with the Epiphone 59. And it is phenomenal. It's kind of what you would want structurally out of that Epiphone. It's what they promised on paper, but they didn't actually really deliver. This one delivers. Again, the body and the neck are assembled. It's a looker, yeah. Yeah, well, I'll get into the details. So let me just go through it. It is, the body and the neck are produced in Japan. They're made in Japan. So that's why it's Japanese maple top, two-piece maple top. You can even see, I don't know if you guys can see that, you can see the maple, which is a premium feature. You can see the maple cap in the cutaway. That's something that you really only see on Gibson USA models. Again, like I said, the thickness on this guitar is the same as Gibson USA standard, which is something that is not true of the Epiphone. Yeah, I'll go through it. Which is not true of the Epiphone. The Epiphone body actually is thinner. It's not the same thickness as the USA standards. This one is. It's exactly the same body and shape of a USA standard. Okay, is it poly or is it nitro? It's poly. So most of the guitars that come out of Japan these days that they produce are going to be sprayed with poly. So it's a poly gloss. So what are the differences of this? I guess it would be better to start from there. What are the differences between this guitar and a USA standard? The differences are the fact there are no fret nibs on this guitar. Also, the headstock angle on this guitar is the same as an Epiphone. It's how heavy? Yeah, okay, that's a good question. I'll answer that about the weight. The neck stock angle on this is the same as an Epiphone. So the neck and the headstock angle. By the way, also long neck tenon in this as well. So the neck style with no fret nibs and the headstock angle on this guitar are the same as an Epiphone. So again, literally, and I called the shop and I spoke to the guys one of the guys who put this together, shop owners, and went through it with him and had a very informative discussion about their thoughts. And really, they did want to do that. They wanted to take that Epiphone 59 and try to build it at an elevated level. Like, what if we built it with, this and did it like this? Now, yeah, sure, it's a poly finish on this, but guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, the finishes on Gibsons these days, it feels like that to me. It's only after a while that you start to feel that nitro and starts to wear down. At first, it feels like a poly finish. The modern Gibsons, the ones that I've had, like my 60 Standard, it feels like my 60 Standard. It's got a chunky neck to it, weighs in at 8 pounds, 7 ounces. The Epiphone that I have, the 59, is 8 pounds, 2 ounces. So a little bit of weight. I'm surprised with the African mahogany back. African mahogany is actually really heavy wood, and Japanese maple is a really heavy wood. Yeah, nothing wrong with poly. As I've told you guys before, I personally prefer poly, and I don't like the fret nibs. So winner, winner, chicken dinner, as far as this guitar is concerned in me. It's built like the old Orville by Gibsons. Oh, thank you. It's built like the old Orville from Gibson guitars, or even some of the Epiphone Elites. The Epiphone Elites, or actually the Orville by Gibson models had the 17-degree angle headstock, and I do believe they might also have had fret nibs. So those were exact note for note duplicates of a standard. Elites. No, they had no fret nibs and they had the standard 14-degree neck angle, which again, like I said, after talking to a lot of luthiers and having that discussion with Fern, 14-degree angle, really from a stability standpoint, like if this thing drops over, the chances of that headstock breaking or the way that it would break, you're doing a lot better with the way that is set on this particular guitar in the Epiphone. All right. One thing that really that will just jump out to you is the space difference between. By the way, these are Goto parts. So is a space difference between the bridge and the tailpiece. That is a USA standard distance there. Whereas on the Epiphone 59, you'll see that it's closer together. And also, this is a true ABR bridge on this thing. It sits in posts that are down inside the wood of the guitar. It's not like the old style where it was just posts going directly into the wood, but it is an ABR bridge as opposed to the bridge that you'll find on the Epiphone. Again, Goto parts on this. The pickups, now I talked to him. The deal with these guitars is and by the way, guys, I haven't showed you this, but you're gonna like, I'll preface this by saying that in the Netherlands, really seriously, they have a sense of humor that I don't know if it translates well over into, other Western cultures. For example, one of the hair salons here is called Brainwash, which is, it's a thinker, but it's kind of odd. There's a group of women who have a ad company and they call themselves bitches. Come on in and have these bitches put your ad together. It's like, I don't think that would fly too well in a lot of other places. But their sense of humor is interesting. I don't know, and I forgot to ask him because I was so excited and I was rushing when I was talking on the phone. I was asking him 1,000 questions. I didn't even ask half of the ones that I wanted to ask when I spoke to the shop guy. I didn't want to take up too much of his time. But I wanted to ask him, why did they call these guitars Stoner? I said to myself, well, gee, you've got yourself a guitar that's assembled in Japan, that made in Japan, constructed in Japan, assembled here in the Netherlands, and you called it a stoner guitar. It's a little bit on the nose. But other than the unfortunate name, you can see here that it does have that Gibson headstock. Now, these tuners are the same tuners that you would find on the Eastman guitars. I'm familiar with these tuners. So these are actually really very nice, high quality tuners. The nut on this thing is the Tusk XL nut. This is the top of the line. Yeah, I know. Isn't that hilarious? Stoner guitar. You know, it's like you guys could have called it anything, but you had to be a Dutch company and call it. Did you have enough stoners around that you had to start making guitars named after them? The Tusk XL nut is look it up. It's a really, really top of the line nut that they put on. No need to replace this thing. Self lubricating, really top notch. As a matter of fact, CTS Electronics in here. And one other feature that I never really, let's see, what else? Oh, the pickups. So the pickups, the deal with these is that they produced some of them. They didn't make a lot of these. Guys, these are in the tens. These aren't in the hundreds. These are, it's actually a true limited Stoner right here, bro. Sean Stoner, founder, lead designer. Yeah, I thought so. It was a guy's name Stoner, put this thing together. Oh, okay. Well, there it is. That is true. So I assume correctly. So, yeah, Voxymana, look it up, guys, on the internet. It's Voxymana Stoner guitars. But anyway, the pickups. Now, with these are produced in the tens. They didn't make, they have not, this is from 2021, the year they started making these. They haven't made a lot of them. They also have Telecasters and Strats as well. They have a lower quality, going for a little lower price than this Les Paul that actually has a maple cap with a very nice veneer on it. It almost looks like greeny. I guess you could say that these are boutique guitars. That would be an accurate summation of this, because it's like, again, it's made in the tens. And what you can do, there's a base model, and you can call in and say, hey, I'll order the base model, but can you, because it's a parts store. Again, Voxymana, again, is like the Stewie Mac of the Netherlands. And I like to put this in, or I'd like to put these parts, I'd like to do that, and they're like, fine. And so every one of these varies. He said that most of them, and he guessed that this is probably Mojo Tone pickups in here. They could also be Tone Rider Alabamas. Those are the ones that he recalls going out at first. So whatever they are in here, one of the two, either way, I find them to be superior to the Burstbucker 2 and 3 that you get in the Epiphone. A lot of depth and a lot of clarity, but again, that has a lot to do with the construction of the guitar too. That starts to come through and starts to add up a little bit in the sonic equation there. It has a feature on this that I never thought that I would want or need on a Les Paul, but it's there. It actually has a push-pull pot for your neck pickup. Now, generally, I don't like coil splitting. I don't think that it sounds like a single coil guitar usually when they do it, so I don't use it. Gosh, I was blown away. Really a great single coil tone can be had out of just pulling this and using your neck pickup. What else can I say about this? I talked about gravitas. When you're holding guitars, like I said, when I hold the Epiphone, you know what? I'm going to give up on that. I'll figure it out one of these days how to get that screensaver to work. But I talked about gravitas, and I talked about when I held the Epiphone, just the standard ES335 versus the Joe Bonamassa 335. I told you I could feel the construction difference. It's something that you can feel in it if you've touched enough of these guitars, if you felt enough of them. you begin to recognize it's just one of those things. Um, when I hold this guitar and in my hands, it's very reminiscent of my Gibsons that I've had, and I've had several, as you guys know. It's the closest thing that I've ever felt uh, on this level. Comes down to feel sometimes, yeah, with higher and stuff. Exactly, that's the point I'm getting to. It comes down to feel, is what I'm trying to say, and you can feel the higher end. You can feel the gravitas of the wood that was selected. The way this, it's not a one-piece neck. There's actually a scarf joint about right here where they put their. Usually it's here, here, and here where they'll attach the wings on to complete the headstock. I couldn't find any scarf joints here and here, so I can only find one here. So I would assume that the head was assembled and then it's joined here. So one piece here joined to a one piece neck, not set neck, long tenon in this one. Um, you can feel those kind of things when you hold this. Like I said, uh, it's like some of those Love Rock guitars from Japan, the Tokais, the good ones, the higher end ones. Again, like I said, the Orville by Gibson's, the Elitist. It's built to those specs of those guitars. It's built like those, except for this is a 2021. It's not a 90. Those were out in between 95 and 25 is when, or maybe even a little sooner than that. That was the heyday of those guitars. But this is a 2021, and yeah, uh, I mean, gosh, even the little details like the strap locks, are just like a Gibson. Um, yeah, it blew my mind. You know, uh, you know, you've got yourself what any snob would, could not turn their nose to, their nose around to, because it is constructed in the traditional manner that you would find on a Gibson. Mahogany, maple, rosewood. That's the classic combination. And I'm enamored with it. Now, as you guys know, I keep pretty much to my philosophy that I don't keep stuff around. And if I'm not using it or something that is not going to work for me, it goes. As was the case with that DoD Looking Glass pedal, which, interestingly enough, I took with me. I put it in my backpack, and when I went to the music store and that I found this guitar at, and I took that DoD with me, and the guy made me an offer on this, and I said, hey, you know what? I've got a DoD pedal here in the box. I said, what will you give me for trading against that guitar? And I got this guy. And so that Looking Glass went into this guitar, because that Looking Glass just wasn't happening, and it was not going to stick around. It went into something that absolutely is happening and absolutely will stick around. I fear, my friends, that the days of my Epiphone 59 are numbered. I don't see the need to continue to keep that guitar as good as it is, when quite frankly I have a superior instrument to that one around in every way. In every way. Um, so yeah, the Stoner stays, and the 59 will go. Uh, and that's just the truth of it. This guitar, this Stoner LP, this Vox-Humana LP, is absolutely a killer. Now, I haven't mentioned the price yet, if you've noticed. I haven't gotten to how much. And I think the how much is an interesting thing. As we know, recently, Epiphone has raised the base cost of all of their instruments, and the cost of their 59 Les Phone Epiphone Les Paul went up to the 59 went up to $999. I bought it at the time; it was $799, and I paid $700 for mine, cash. This guitar, and one other point regarding the Epiphone, that guitar came with a case. This guitar does not come with a case. So you can factor that in. An Epiphone case, which I happen to have, I have an extra Epiphone case sitting here, Les Paul case, will run you about $130. So you can add that into the figure of the $1,099 that the base model of this guitar, with not the one with the veneer, is $899. If you want to get the maple, full maple cap on it, then you're going to spend $10.99 for this model. And that's a bargain, in my opinion. When you look at African mahogany, Japanese maple, a rosewood, fingerboard on there, as opposed to Indian laurel, which I don't mind. I'm not so much of a fretboard snob. I find Indian laurel be quite acceptable. I've had great examples of both. This one has a great example on it. Obviously, the Japanese really take picking their woods very seriously. That's the reason why the cost of Japanese produced guitars are high or higher if you import it in than American ones. But somehow, because they're a parts company and they get all their parts and everything wholesale, they were able to put this guitar together at that price point. No case. If you want a case, you're looking at $1,250 is the net result of that. For this rig, for this setup, but boy, do you get yourself a step up for $100 for the base model, $100 more. You're getting yourself a lot more guitar than the Epiphone. Now you may say to yourself, well, I don't know Vox Romana. They don't have a name like Epiphone has. They don't have a name like Gibson obviously has. But if you look at it, as somebody pointed out there earlier, you forgive me, I forget whom, that it's a boutique guitar, then it makes sense in that light. Again, like I said, they built these in the tens. And the guy told me that at this moment, it's really kind of a made-to-order kind of thing. Hey, from Ireland, greetings. Welcome to the party. Hope the weather over there is better than it is over here in Amsterdam. Boy, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna have to rent a boat or something because it is just pouring every day. I'm trying to get my gardening work, guys. I have a pretty big deck. I got a huge deck. I can land a helicopter on it. I'm trying to get my garden together, but I haven't had a decent day yet to do that kind of work. But greetings to you. If you look at it like it's a boutique guitar. It's a boutique made guitar. It's it's a symbol. It's the body and the neck. Like I said, it's from Japan, and they put the parts and everything together here because they get these parts wholesale at the cost, so therefore they can put in much higher quality products. I mean, even the knobs are really so much a step above what you're finding on any Epiphone. Even the Joe Bonamassa I have. The Switchcraft switch in here, USA Switchcraft. Again, like I said, just all inside here, again, the same setup that you'll find in a USA Standard. Other than the push-pull pots, although I do believe the Modern has it. So it's more set up like the Modern in terms of the parts. Exactly identical. Same party. Whether it is a crap here too. Yeah, man. Some of the worst storms that I ever experienced in my life were in Singapore and England, That's like, you were like, holy crap. You really thought it was the end of the world. Here, it's just cold, It's not spring at all. Spring has not sprung. Although, things are flowering, but they're getting drowned. The bees, unfortunately, are in their beehive like, I don't think we can go out today, fellas. So dig that, guys. I rambled on a bit about this, but I'm really excited about this acquisition. I didn't expect it. It's like, going out and finding something that you didn't know. I didn't know existed until that day, until that moment I walked into that shop. That such a thing existed. That somebody actually looked at that Epiphone 59 and said, "Hey, we can do this better," and pull it off and actually put it out commercially. Like I said, not a lot of them out there. They can be found. Check out their website, Vox Humana NL. It's in Dutch, but if you use Google, you can translate it. Check them out. Really boutique guitars. Again, this is absolutely, I mean, tone-wise, everything, it's just killer over that Epiphone 59. It really puts that 59 to shame in so many ways that actually when I put the 59 back in its case, because they were sitting next to each other side by side, and you could really, I when I had my 60 standard and I did the side by side comparisons, um, since I've lived with that 59 for 3 years now, and I had something equivalent again to put up against it, I could really begin to see maybe some things that I didn't even myself pick out 3 years ago when I did that comparison between that and the 60s that went. And so, yeah, the 59 is on the chopping block. The Epiphone is on the chopping block. I kind of like this one better. I'm not into, well, the Chinese made it, but I have to be honest with you. A Japanese constructed guitar is always going to trump Chinese, Korea, Indonesian, any day of the week. I don't think there's anybody out there that would argue with that. I really can't see anybody out there arguing with that statement because that's a fact, a hard fact. The woods that they choose, their construction techniques, because they've been doing it forever and 50 years, and just the overall quality of it, it's something. It's a rocker. It's a rocker, and it's now my Les Paul. Again, like I said, I'm not interested in Gibson anything. I'm really not interested now when I can get the best of both worlds. I can get that USA standard body and parts and everything, but I can get the attributes of the Epiphone that I like. No fret nibs, 14-degree headstock angle. Go and then it's a dream come true. And the fact that these guys did it is amazing. I'm not going to say that I'm not going to let this one go, but it'd be hard pressed to get it out of my hands. So there's that. Interesting guys out there. It's just fascinating out there. If you go out there and the things that you can find, the little hidden gems that can be found going to a local store. You're not going to get that, on Reverb. Well, I guess you could get it on Reverb, but you're not going to get that at your just surfing Sweetwater or something like that. That's why I'm a big proponent of mom and pop stores. I always have been and I always will be. Fortunately, it's not a dying breed in this country like it is in the States. It's getting tougher and tougher for mom and pops there and in the UK. Over here, it's still appreciated, and the attention to quality. I mean, having that Dutch attention to just electronic goodness and that Japanese build, and marrying the two of them together to make this guitar, it's every bit of what you would imagine it to be. Like I said, the gravitas, you can feel it. It's just in the feeling of it. You feel like you've got yourself something, just like I do with it. It's the same kind of gravitas, like I said, I feel with that Joe Bonamassa, even more so, actually, to be honest with you. So check it out. Check out your local stores anyway. You guys should be poking around your pawn shops. You really be surprised at things that you'll find. A lot of interesting things. That's how I got my my Celestion 73 greenbacks. I got them because another gentleman on YouTube was looking around. Greg, my good friend Greg, was looking around in shops, and he found an old amp, and he just peeped through the slit, and then he said, "Hey, those look like greenbacks in there." And I think they were selling it for $75. He bought it, and he made a killing off of me on that. Pawn shops are not the same in New York City anymore. Yeah, I know that too. That's even they're getting killed. They're getting slaughtered because they're only going to deal in the things that move. Used to be able to find, yeah, like it was that way in LA. Hey, I lived in pawn shops when I was a studio musician in LA. I lived in pawn shops. There were certain places up in Hollywood that I would hit up regularly because every musician, when around rent time, the end of the month, they were pawning their guitars and equipment. It's a reality. I'm sure it couldn't be that much different today. And if you hit up the pawn shops up on Hollywood and Sunset up there in that area around that time of the month, you can find some things, and that's a fact. Hell, that's the story of Joe Perry and his 59. I look them. They were gems. Yeah, they were gems. Joe Perry had to pawn his 59 Les Paul because of his issues. So that's just a cycle of life with musicians. That's just how it is. And yeah, those mom and pop stores. Now, guys, I'm reminiscing. I'm sitting here talking halfway out my ass because I'm talking about it the way that I remember it. You have to remember, I left LA in 1995. And to be honest with you, I really haven't been there since. Pawn shops can really be great here in Florida. Oh yeah, I guess it's regional. It really depends upon where you're at. There's really no such thing as pawn shops. I mean, there are pawn shops here, but they're really jewelry kind of things. But there are a lot of mom and pop stores. Even Hendrix Pawn. Oh yeah, look. My Uncle Carlton will tell you, and he's feeling better, so we'll be doing interviews with him. Part 2 or 3 of those interviews coming up. But he'll tell you the reality of a black musician during that period. You were pawning constantly. It was a cycle, and it's just the way it was because gigs got really good sometimes, and then it got, as my Uncle Carlton says, real thin. He says I was getting kind of thin. That's his code for saying I was out of money. Just support those, and just by me going to this shop, I came across outside of the Japanese made, again, like I said, those Elitist and those Over by Gibson, and right now those on eBay and the other usual suspect sites, those things will cost you anywhere between $14, $15, even up to $2,000 for those now, because people are recognizing, hey, wait a minute, this thing has a solid maple top, and it's got all these things and this, that, and the other, and they're creeping up there. They used to be a bargain 10 years ago. You could get them below $1,000. But now, unfortunately, those guitars are going up. To find one made in 2021 see, the problem, I'll tell you though, those weren't all gems. The Orville by Gibson guitars had the great body. They were built, I told you, those are the ones that had the 17-degree neck angle. The body on those were built spot on to a Les Paul standard. The electronics in them were crap. So you inevitably had to change the bridge, the everything you had to swap. But once you swap that out, you had yourself, in effect, in the nitro, by the way, too. They didn't spray those in poly, they sprayed those in nitro. You had yourself a de facto Les Paul, which is what they are. Just swap out those Japanese parts. There's a Cherry Burst Stoner on Reverb right now. Yeah, that's this one. I saw that when I was doing a search about that guitar. They put this up. That's the shop that I bought it from. No, that's sitting here next to me. That one is no longer available. I saw that they put that up on Reverb. They were asking $800 for it, marked it down to $699, and I walked out the door with it, for a lot less than that for the trade-in. It's the Elitist that had the good parts, but the bodies were what snobs would say, well, it has a 14-degree angle, it doesn't have the fret nibs, and so they'll, just like this guitar right here. So, but it had excellent parts to it. As long as the LP is not 9 pounds or heavier, it can't go wrong. Yeah, I was surprised by this one. My scale is not super accurate, but I've gotten it to where I can put a guitar in and get pretty close. It's in the 8.7, 8.8 range. Whereas again, like I said, my Epiphone 59 is 8.2. So, but again, I gravitate towards this one again, just when I hold it, even though that one is lighter. This one right here, I can't. It's not so much of a difference. Those 5 ounces are not so much of a difference. Yeah, so dig that, guys. I was blown away by this guitar. I didn't even expect it. I didn't know it was going to come into my life. And it has totally changed the way that I look at things yet again, about Epiphone guitars. Because there's, you would really wish that they would do this. That they would say, hey, you know what, we're going to give it the full body. Hey, you know what, we're not going to use that Asian metric. We're going to use the imperial metrics on the tailpiece and the bridge, in the distance and all the other things. And, then let's put that out as a limited edition. And, I think that, again, with the recent edition of like the Veil of Bees guitars, they're getting closer to that. They are stepping towards that. I think they are moving towards that. I think, again, I don't think they're going to be using African mahogany. They're still going to be sourcing that Philippine mahogany, but that's fine. They are creeping towards that, but you can see how that price is creeping up as well, whereas still this is cheaper than that Adams Jones, and you're getting a lot of bang for the buck out of this thing. You just have to look past the fact that, again, like I said, what's the name on the headstock? If you can look past that and you're happy with a boutique guitar, by the way, Slash's first Les Paul was a Derringer guitar. It was not a Les Paul. It was a boutique guitar. Again, just like this, made to look like a Les Paul standard, but not. So again, and that made the Appetite for Destruction album what it is. So take that in the back of your mind as well when you make that kind of weighing out. I did, and again, like I said, the 59 will be going. I had a conversation with Gustav. Gustav is the guy who does all my hardware. He repairs my amps, my amp. And my pedals, and keeps everything running here in the studio smoothly. I actually went to visit him this week. I had a couple of things that I wanted him to work on. One of them, interesting enough, was not a musical instrument at all or anything musical really. It was my Xbox. I took it to him because I've got 3 cats and a dog. And this is a dusty place just as it stands anyway. So that Xbox is just, I know inside, I could probably assemble a 4th cat. I think so. I took it to him to have him clean it out and service it. But I was talking to him about amps. We were having conversation about amps, and he said something to me very profound that clicked back to something that Barry Witt at Dirk Wick Music in Utrecht was talking to me about his amps. This guy is an amp guy. He's an amp repairer, and when I talk about amps, I'm talking about amps from the 60s, 50s, 60s, 70s. He's worked on them all. Right now, he's putting together a 48-track studio for a client of his. So this guy he's the real deal. GE electrician, researcher, top guy here, knows his stuff. And he said to me, I'm giving up on the amp repair business. I'm quitting, I'm shutting this business down. Of course, my alarm was very high because I'm like, where the hell am I going to go to now? This is the best. It's like, again, when I came here in Singapore, finding the level and quality of luthiers and repair guys that you have here at a fraction of the price, by the way, is night and day. And to have Fern and Gustav in my life, to have these 2 guys where I know that aspect of my studio needs and requirements are fully covered, even more so. Even more so, to think of losing one of those guys right now, part of my team, in my opinion, is frightening to me. It was shocking to me. I said, "Oh, please don't say it's not so." I said, and he said, "Yeah, because I'm tired of this." The same kind of things. I can understand his points here. Taxes and lawyers. For my two businesses, I have to have a lawyer. I got to pay. I got to pay an accountant, and it gets to be a bit much. So he wants to get away from it. He says, "Don't worry. For guys like you, my I'll do it privately. I'll just do it on the side. We'll just do a cash kind of thing." I said, "Okay, fine, good." But he said, "I just don't have enough guys bringing in amps anymore. The modelers and the Axe-Fx and all those things have really taken over. The guys who use amps, they still use them, but they're getting older. And even he has some amps he wants to sell. And he's put them consignment with a well-known shop here down the street. Well-known shop. I do business with them. And it's just sitting there. It's sitting, sitting, and sitting, and sitting. And Dirk, over at Barry at Dirk Witt, said the same thing to me when I went to go interview him. We were talking about his amp collection because he has quite an impressive vintage amp collection. And he said, these are my furniture. He says, I dust them off, but they don't move. They don't sell. I'll buy them at a shocking low price, he says, so don't bring me your amp, your vintage amp, because you won't like what I'll offer for it. But that's the reality of it. And it just, as a closing thing to talk about this evening, it hit me. I was like, wow, this is the second person in, a little space of time that's really talked about the demise of tube amps, even like I said last week, I'm retiring my Laney as my practice amp. I'm bringing it out of the living room and been putting it in here somewhere, and building myself a practice pedal board, much along the same lines as my recording board here. And that's just the sign of the times. That's just the reality of it. And I really don't see. I see a plateauing of, the 50s, the 60s, really shooting up in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. It's starting to plateau off because that's the beginning of DAWs, digital modeling, things of that nature. And now you're really starting to see that precipitous decline in that market. Are they manufacturing them? Sure, but you're noticing that Marshall sold out. Now, they haven't completely sold out. The Marshall family still holds a say in the executive board, but they sold. Because the profitability, I'm sure, and the things in order to keep that organization going just is declining. It's in a decline. So they sold. A lot of top amp manufacturers, if you guys have noticed recently, have sold. So, but why is that? Well, it's really a sign of the fact that there's a decline in the market for tube amps. And of course, if you listen to the Live at Isle of Wight, or not listen to, or if you watch the video, Isle of Wight videos, like Free, I think Free was there, Joni Mitchell was there. Was that the one with Hendrix there? Anyway, festival. And you'll see Free, and they got, stack of Marshalls. And for that time period, because PA systems were so poor, it's one of the reasons the Beatles stopped playing live. They couldn't hear themselves when they were playing on stage, much less the audience could hear anything that they were doing. The amp war started in the 60s, where Marshall building the bigger and bigger amps because the PA systems were so poor and the amount of the venues started getting bigger and bigger and bigger that was drawing these acts that they needed to increase these amps. Well, PA systems have more than caught up. where now I can plug this same board here next to me into any PA system at any live, decent live venue and go to town. No need for an amp at all. And the sound person will love you because they have control of your sound. And if you're getting good with him or her, then you won't be unhappy with how you sound in your mix. But I digress. The PA systems have caught up, and the need for that kind of amp is no longer there. Even in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, I told you guys the famous stories. A lot of groups had these Marshall cabinets that were empty. They were just they took these on tour. They'd have a whole wall of Marshall cabinets empty. They'd have a little 1x12 or 2x12 in the back mic'd up, and that's what the guitar player was playing through. And that's what was going out to the house. It wasn't coming from the Marshall stacks, coming from that little 1x12, 2x12 mark, mic'd in the back. And that's a fact. And so that's the big difference between at the time when, say, the Beatles was playing and when I was mentioning them earlier, Twisted Sister was playing. It's a completely different playing field. So the need for these big amps these days, and a lot of live venues, if you walk in with a Marshall stack, they'll tell you to hit the bricks because they don't want to have it. A lot of bands will argue with your bandmates, will argue with you and say, hey, could you turn yourself down or do something like that? Well, now, everybody's digital and modeled and going through the house mixer, so, no need for those kind of arguments either. The sound is better. The sound quality between a live performance back in the 60s and 70s, and I can attest to the 70s because I started going to live performances in the 70s. And what they are now are night and day. The audio is pristine in a lot of the things, especially down here at the Concert Cabral when I go there. It's just amazing how it sounds. So the need for those kind of amps really aren't there either. Nostalgia plays a bit into the sales, but when that generation that are nostalgic about tube amps dies away as it is, as Gustav was alluding to, I guess in his own way, his own Dutch way, then the interest of them goes. It's just a progression of that. So my thoughts on tube amps, really looking at this just from a financial standpoint, the market is falling out, which means there's not going to be a lot of new development there. They try to combine the tube amp and the modeling amp and do things like that. They're cute and all, but their sound is it's neither one or the other. It's lukewarm. And lukewarm things get spat out. So those haven't really taken over. Although there's some like Sparks, there's some out there that are cool. So I'll give you that. They're getting close. But even that, is a far cry from a Marshall stack. And you can plug headphones into that, by the way, as well. So, you're not, blowing out your neighbor at 1 a.m. with your even a 1x12. My Laney 1x12, even though I have a 1 watt, it's 1 watt and a 5 watt. And the 1 watt built-in attenuator. Even at the 1 watt, which is what I play in all the time, that thing will blow the roof. If I turn that up, it will blow the roof off. And it's a 1x12 with the 73 greenback. Not a lot of wattage to it. I can imagine having a 50 watt or 100 watt amp. So those things are not something that are really desired anymore. And so I am predicting their demise. It won't be a quick one. It won't be in my lifetime, but pretty close, I'm thinking. Pretty close. Maybe so. Maybe even in my, before I kick up my heels for the last time, that might be the case. I'm holding on to my Laney. I'm not selling it, even though I don't plan on, once I build the new board, practice board in there, I'll never let it go. I do believe you should always have at least one tube amp, and it doesn't have to be anything spectacular. It could be a rolling cube. Actually, those are actually pretty good. It can be whatever, but you don't want to put yourself in a position where you can't plug into something like I did when my computer went down, and I could use headphones with my pedal train here, but I couldn't play out. That's what the laning was. So it still has that use. You're never going to take that away from a combo amp. It's always going to be there as long as you keep it in good condition. It's going to be there to do its job without a lot of in between stuff. But they are getting far and few in between in terms of people who are out there actively seeking them. I would love to see the stats on how many people within a certain age range, let's say 17 to 30, 35, we'll say, how many of those guys are tube amp buyers versus how many of those guys are modeler buyers. I think the numbers in that would not be very surprising to a lot of you out there. I don't think it's a 50-50 split. I think it's closer to probably 80-20. Everyone, don't forget to like the show. Man, I'm going to make you the moderator, man. Because every week you remind me. Yeah, he's right. I see the math out there. I got 13 people watching and 9 likes. If you haven't done it yet, hit that like button, guys. It does help. But those are my thoughts on the matter. It was kind of depressing, actually, to hear Gustav talk that way and the sadness in his voice. End of an era kind of thing, the way, and he's just disappointed. He says, yeah, it's a great amp. It's an Engel. It's a great amp. There's no reason why that thing, I believe it's Engel, he said, sitting there, all tube amp, hand wired, creme of the creme type thing. It's just sitting there gathering dust. Even consignment, even at a good price, it's not moving. A lot of things aren't moving. I know that. I know nothing is moving these days. But even something like that, there are a market out there, just like with, historics and custom shop type things, that people with that kind of coin, they'll pick them up when they see them. And even them, they're not buying, at least in his case, and in the case of Barry Witt. So those are two guys that certainly I know they know the market, got a lot of skin in the game, both of them. So there's that. So yeah, guys, an interesting week. Man, seriously, I woke up the other day with this guitar next to me. I actually slept. I slept with the guitar. I woke up and it was laying next to me. I was like, well, hello there. I fell in love with it so much. It really is something to hold. I wish I could pass this around the circle here with all 13 of you guys are watching right now and have you just touch it and feel it, because you really feel what I'm talking about, man. This is it. If you don't want to get a Gibson, you don't want to get the Gibson. They always say, well, for that kind of money, you could get into a Les Paul tribute. Well, this blows a Les Paul tribute out of the water 9 days to Sunday, because they can't even get you on the things they usually talk about, the quality and all that one. The quality is even better here. So yeah, I fell in love with this. It's been a long time since just last week I was showing you guys that 339, great guitar. And Initiative wanted to pass through here, but it is passing through. It's nothing that I plan on keeping. I just wanted to buy it and check it out and maybe review it and talk about those things, which I did. Yeah, it's I didn't fall in love with it. I didn't wake up next to it. I was playing and sitting there and looking at it, and I sat it down and I fell asleep on the sofa. And when I woke up, it was I was like, okay, you must really like this one. That's funny. That's a funny one with this one. But yeah, boutique guitar. It's my Les Paul. It's the one that you guys will see me playing from now on. And that's the story of this and tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed sitting here and listen to me pontificate upon the subjects tonight. Maybe you guys took something away from it that you found interesting and useful. Again, I always try to say, put something an honest, well, not honest, to put together a thought to go out forth on the week on. Always being good to each other, being good to your family and friends, all those things, of course. Being appreciative of what you have. Um, Thank you, Ben. Um, Being appreciative of what you have is always another thing. I'm good, and one of the things that falls under I'm good is, of course, being to be good. You have to be appreciative, and I'm appreciative that I had the opportunity to be living in the Netherlands at a time when I could walk into a guitar shop and find a boutique guitar like this that really gave me the things that I found lacking in that 59. As much as you guys know, I do adore that guitar, but it's night and day. It really is. It's just absolute night and day. It's not the same thing at all. And I'm appreciative to be in a position to be able to get this one. Of course, like I said, the reason I got it, I know what I can get for that 59. So when I sell that one, it'll be a wash. Uh, so it'll be, plus minus zero. And so that works for me. But no, I will not have that money tied up for very long. So the 59 will probably be going this week. As always, great show. Keep taking care of yourself. See you on the next Sunday. Yes, Don Juan. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. I am feeling better. I was good this week. I didn't have any kind of relapses or anything. Just trying to build my muscle back up and put on a little fat here. I'm feeling a little thin, but in the literal sense, not in the poor sense. Certainly not that. Not my heart and spirit, guys. I got to tell you, coming here every Sunday night and enjoying this time with you is a great pleasure, and I do appreciate you taking the time to show up. Again, I'm appreciative. I'm glad that I was able to get this and bring it to you guys and show it to you. That's just a blessing in itself to be able to do that. Not to brag or boast, but just to share. That's just kind of my feeling about it. Well, maybe bragging a little bit. Thank you. So you guys take care, be good, be appreciative this week, and I will be here next Sunday, God willing, and so will you. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to watch tonight. You take care. Bye-bye.